Am I the asshole for not cleaning up after my boyfriend messed up? Context. My boyfriend of 2 years decided he wanted to cook tonight. As I had just been to the dentist and had a procedure done, I told him that if he chose to cook it, he needed to know that I had no interest in participating, and if that wasn't okay we could take a meal from the freezer. He really wanted to and made mac and cheese. This needed to go in the oven and he wanted to use a form that is very difficult to clean, so I told him to use a backing sheet of some sort to make sure it didn't stick too much. He chose not to. After he was finished and the form was burnt and lots of pieces stuck to it, he put it to soak and asked me before bed if I could clean it for him the morning after. I told him no. He then proceeded to say, "Oh, then I guess I'll be doing it at 8 a.m. in the morning before work." I asked what he meant and he said that he found it ridiculous that I wouldn't do it as I go to work later than him. I explained that I had previously tried to warn him about this issue and that I was trying to prevent it for him and that I didn't find it fair that he was trying to make me feel bad for not fixing it for him now that it could have been avoided. He thinks I should feel bad, but I really don't. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. You gave him a heads up about not wanting to help, plus you warned him about the pan situation, and he ignored both. It's not fair for him to expect you to clean up after him, especially when you had a dental procedure and weren't up for it. If he chose to cook and ignored your advice, he should take responsibility for the cleanup too. It's about mutual respect, not shifting blame. I'm shocked anyone is giving you any grief over this. His mess, his chore. You warned him and he ignored you. Then, he pulled the old, weaponized incompetence card. Tell him the dirty pan will be waiting for him when he gets home from work. No reason to get up early. But the one thing that isn't happening is op cleaning after you disregarded advice. Not the asshole. It sounds like he was hoping for a grateful reaction from you and to be the hero by making you dinner after your procedure. He is acutely aware that you warned him and that he still messed up. He seems to be having a little pity party for himself. Hopefully sleep will help calm him down and that this isn't a regular occurrence. Guess I'll be doing it later. Yup, you will. Are you his girlfriend or his mommy? Not the asshole. You told him to use the backing sheet so if he decides not to listen, he can clean up the burnt mess himself. Not the asshole that he found it ridiculous that I wouldn't do it as I go to work later than him. He made the mess, he should clean it up himself, and if he can't then no more cooking for him. You tell him, your name isn't Hazel and he isn't Mr. Baxter. Am I the asshole for embarrassing my family by talking about the things they said to me? I'm 16 male, the baby of the family, and I also have ADHD. Pretty bad ADHD too. Didn't get diagnosed until I was 11 though because my parents don't like diagnosis like that. They don't really believe in them. They also believe you just need to punish the inattentive hyperactive behavior out of kids like me. My siblings are 9 years older than me. None of them have any mental or behavioral health issues. They're like our parents for not being understanding too. When I was younger I was in hell. I couldn't be still. I couldn't focus on shit. I could not keep track of time or things at all. No matter how hard I tried I was always failing or making people mad. And my family were the worst of all. When I was 5 I got left behind at home while my parents went to the Christmas fair. They didn't realize for an hour and came back. I'd moved around so much instead of going to the car because I was struggling to stay still or focused on the task. I was grounded for a week and had everything taken off of me. I ended up tearing up my room and got punished for a month with nothing, and in that time I ended up so jittery and struggling. My parents just yelled at me and my siblings mocked me and yelled too for being weird. Every time I got a report card my parents would bring my siblings for ramen, my favorite food, and make me watch everyone but me get some as a punishment for my bad grades. One time I was running around the yard like crazy because I was so hyper. I was maybe 7. 2 of my sisters called me a R-word slur and told me to go fucking die instead of making their friends see that. The R-word was used a lot toward me by my siblings. My parents and siblings always said I'd never amount to anything and I was destined for prison or homelessness. My parents told me I couldn't even get good grades in kindergarten. My parents ignored many requests from the school to look into why I struggled. It took until this amazing teacher when I was 11, who annoyed my parents so much they gave in and got me evaluated. ADHD diagnosis happened immediately. I was one of the worst cases. They said no to meds. Had to talk to a hospital social worker and change their minds. The initial meds process was rough and they were shitty to me even then. Saying meds couldn't even fix me. I still talk to that teacher. She's amazing. My favorite teacher in the world. Love her. I've been back to in-person school for 2 years and my grades have improved a lot because of a program my school runs. I'm now getting B's and C's instead of D and F's. My best friend's family took me out to celebrate and during that we talked about my family and I told them everything. None of them expected it to be that bad. Maybe a little unsupportive but not to that level. They shamed my parents for it afterward and my parents were furious that I talked about it. They said I went out of my way to embarrass the whole family. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Congrats on practicing medical self-advocacy. You did something really hard pushing around them to get to a fix that is saving you. If they're not proud, know that a dumb internet stranger is. Tough cookies for your parents. They are just mad that 1, you actually had the balls to tell someone, and 2, they had to hear how they were in the wrong. I love when parents get schooled like that. Start planning now for an escape plan once you turn 18 so you can go NC. Don't tell them either. No doubt they will assume you won't be able to do it. Imagine the satisfaction when you're free of them and won't have to listen to their bullshit anymore. And it'll even be better because you did it in spite of them. Not the asshole. You fucking go, kid. My best friend's family also took me under their wing. You're not crazy, you're outnumbered. Love you, kiddo, don't stop fighting for yourself. You don't deserve this. Not the asshole. If they didn't want you to tell anybody, they shouldn't have done it in the first place. You're not their little monkey secret keeper. If they don't want people to know bad things that they do, then they shouldn't do bad things. You're not in the wrong for sharing your story. Talking about your struggles isn't embarrassing, it's your truth. Your friends' reactions show that they care about you and want to support you. It's okay to express how you feel, especially after overcoming so much. Your family's response reflects more on them than on you. Not the asshole, and for what it's worth, I am proud of you. You had everything stacked against you and still managed to get ahead. Kudos to your teacher, too. And to your friend's family. Your family is embarrassed because they know they were being abusive. Well, the truth sucks. Is there anyone in your extended family that can support you? Or maybe your friend's family could continue to give you advice. Plan for your future and get the hell out of there as soon as you can. Good luck. Am I the asshole for crying when my entire family started to speak a language I barely know? So I'm a 14-year-old guy and my parents are from Taiwan. Their native language is Mandarin. My older sister, 19F, and older brother, 17M, both speak it pretty much fluently. Well, by the time I came around and was old enough to actually learn stuff, my family rarely spoke our native language. Due to that, I barely speak it. My mom said I barely compared to a toddler in the language, so she signed me up for online Mandarin lessons that I'm starting this week. Today when I came home from school, my sister was the only one home and greeted me in Mandarin and started speaking to me in it. I asked her why in English and she told me in English that our parents want everyone to speak more Mandarin around the house. I just started to have a lot of anxiety because of it, and tonight at dinner everyone was speaking Mandarin and I can't really pick up on most of it. I understand enough to kind of understand what's happening in the conversation, but barely, and sometimes I get lost. Then my brother turns to me and asked me a question in Mandarin and I just didn't understand a single word of it and I started to cry. I told my mom that she is bullying me for not knowing how to speak our native language, and she even agreed that it's her fault and I don't get why she's doing this to me. My sister then said in English, "See, I told you something like this would happen," to my mom. My mom then got mad and said that learning this is important and she isn't going to let me crying about it stop her from making me learn it. Not the asshole. She doesn't get to make up for years of failing to expose you to a language by forcing you into a situation where everyone is refusing to speak to you in a language you understand. Immersion is not a bad way to learn a language, but she's going about it all wrong. No assholes here. Learning immersion style is hard at first. Accept that it will be difficult and just jump in and keep trying without embarrassment because your ignorance is not your fault. Stop them and ask when you don't understand what they said. Work at it and fluency will be hugely valuable for you. When you learned to walk, you didn't just start out walking. You fell down a lot. You didn't quit then, even if it made you cry. Not the asshole. Your family seems to be doing the immersion way of having you learn Mandarin. While very popular way to learn a language, especially at a young age, they are being Oz about it with you. No warning, no preparation, nothing. However, my guess is that you will pick it up quite quickly. But your mom seems to be the stereotypical overbearing mom here. Not the asshole. This is solid proof that just because someone speaks a language doesn't mean they're a good teacher. I remember trying to learn German. I asked a colleague to practice and she spoke so fast, using complicated words, it was horrible. I told her I'm still a beginner and needed her to slow down and we can talk about easy things, and she said, "No, that's not how Germans talk," and that pretty much ended my German learning adventure. I'll add, your native language is English, not Mandarin. Native language is your first language. Not the asshole. She's 13 years too late. This should have started when you were a baby. Sorry, but doing this to you now is cruel. They can wait until you've been taking classes and start to feel ready to practice. I have a 7-year-old that speaks 3 languages. We started the moment she was born. Not the asshole. As someone who only knows my basic hello, goodbye, and thank you in Mandarin, I think it's so unfair for your mom to just thrust you into this. Learning is important and it sucks your parents failed to teach you earlier on. That is on them. If it were so important you would have started learning 14 years ago. Am I the asshole for laughing at my BF's backhanded joke? There's obviously more to this. Tonight, my boyfriend, 23M, and I, 23F, went to a small get-together with a group of mutual friends. We got there, and one of the couples announced that she was 18 weeks pregnant with a cute belly bump. I noticed her drinking from a tall can at this time, and upon hearing the news, told myself that it must be sparkling water. After saying our congratulations, we all then were sat in a circle enjoying a few beverages and bands. I looked to my left in disbelief. Now, my boyfriend and I are not typically judgmental people. We are also not very confrontational, as everyone has their own personal backgrounds and beliefs. However, this woman was, to our realization, actually finishing what we assume, her first alcoholic beverage of the night and was moving on to a Molson Canadian beer. I, myself, bit my tongue, but I doubt my face red as though I hadn't noticed. My boyfriend was talking to the father, and also had noticed her alcohol consumption throughout the night. After a brief conversation of how the BD's work is full of alcoholics and drug addicts, my boyfriend chimed in with his backhanded joke. The father said, "My coworker told me he doesn't do crack anymore, he just snorts pure cocaine." As if that's better. My boyfriend responded, "That industry is messed up. My old boss used to tell me that his fetal alcohol syndrome is what made him so smart." I laughed, threw my head back even. Shockingly, the baby daddy also chuckled, probably not picking up on the backhanded joke while being a few drinks deep. The expecting mother's face grew cross. She put her drink down immediately. Leaving the party, I feel a sense of strange guilt for not saying anything to her directly. I also feel as if that would have possibly been edging none of my business territory. Am I the asshole for laughing? Am I the asshole for not saying anything, possibly in a more sensitive and serious context? Edits. My boyfriend and the BD simply went to the same high school. It had been years since my boyfriend saw him last. This was our first time meeting this woman. I'm posting this because it was so hard to witness. I'm still debating reaching out to the BD or something more serious. This, in my eyes, is child abuse. Pregnancy term is over 3 months. There is no going back for them now, you know? I'm horrified, frankly. This all happened over the span of the 2 hours we were there. The first drink she had was not beer, it was a hard seltzer. We don't even know how much she actually drank that night as we left after being there for 2 hours. Updates. It was confirmed that the first drink was a mocktail. It was also confirmed that she had more mocktails in the cooler. She chose the beer. Random extra context. As we were halfway out the door, the baby daddy ran up to us and asked what my BF's last name was, as his girlfriend, the pregnant woman, was wondering. Not the asshole, I would have laughed, too. I also don't think you should have said anything to her because she clearly knows what she's doing and is fine with it. Nothing good would have come out of it, and you'd probably have been told to mind your business. Info. Does the BD seem okay with her drinking? I hope not for the baby's sake and that he actually does something about it. Not the asshole for laughing. Don't take it further. Don't reach out, don't ask. It's done, your boyfriend said what he said, you laughed, she stopped drinking, that night. Leave it. Okay, so your boyfriend and the father of the child are in the same friend group, went to high school together, but he had to ask your boyfriend what his surname is. Does this actually make sense to anyone else reading this? I think that your boyfriend's joke was the least serious problem at this party. If the woman was drinking while pregnant, she either didn't know of fetal alcohol syndrome or she didn't care. Both are bad. Not the asshole, probably the shock she had from the joke might at least lead to her being ashamed. If you would have talked to her about it calmly, she probably would not have cared about it at all. Of course it was mean, but she absolutely deserved that joke. Why would she ask for the last name? What was the intent of this question? I hope she will stop this shit immediately and that the child will be happy and healthy. She's an arsehole and so is the father. I hate to see pregnant women smoking or drinking. Selfish sod.